Welcome back, friends and family of the internet and fellow watchers on the wall. Did you know that you are very important? Everything about you, from your blood to your bones and even your organs, may be what the elites want most. Feeding you, caring for you, well, that's starting to cost them a bit too much money. So let's really get into this. Folks, have you guys really caught on what this fourth industrial revolution is going to look like? We are now, and I did the video for you. The science is there. Artificial wombs. hmm There are now people demanding that blood transfusions that are being given to them or their children be true blood. In other words, people who were unvaccinated only from the sea, right? So there's a big case that just happened in New Zealand. You and I are fixing to talk about that because it's a harbinger of what is to come. All right. There's not enough true blood out there for both the elites and their families and the average person. And I think I'm starting to realize that. You've got machines giving birth. You've got machines caring for the elderly. You've got machines picking your food. You've got cars wanting to drive you. You've got Carl Schwab not wanting to die. So welcome back to Starkey Farmstead. Just to let you guys know, the truth, I do not get paid by YouTube because they said that my content is harmful. But I don't put out content that any other YouTuber's not putting out. It's simply that I love the Lord and I don't have any issue sharing that. And I think that's their biggest issue. So if you guys would like to support what we do here, the truth we bring out, my husband is fighting an aneurysm. And even if all of you would donate $1, it would help us survive the coming weeks after surgery. So first off, I found this video, How Humans Will Live Forever. Let's watch this together.
Truth is, you're going to die. We all are. That's because unlike whooping cough or strep throat, death has no cure. But thanks to the latest medical breakthroughs, we're closer than ever to finding one. In fact, some experts predict that we'll be able to live up to 20% longer over the next 100 years. That means children today might live until they're 145 years old. And what about immortality? Well, turns out even that's not out of the question. History is littered with unusual attempts to defy death. In 1920, for example, a Russian scientist thought that he could prolong life by sewing a piece of monkey testicle to a human's. And even more shockingly, this idea caught on. At least 300 people underwent this procedure. Ouch! Anyways, today, the field of longevity is far more scientific. New drugs like rapamycin, for example, can increase the lifespan of mice up to 30%. Rapamycin works by slowing down the growth of certain cells that contribute to aging. And experts predict that it will likely have a similar effect in humans, adding as much as 15 years to our current lifespan. But even if drugs like rapamycin work, there's no saying that your heart won't suddenly give out well before then. Or maybe it will be your liver. Well, turns out there's a fix for that too. Just print a new one. In 2013, scientists made headlines when they 3D printed the first living kidney. And by 2018, they'd advanced the tech to the point where they were printing human corneas from an ink made out of stem cells. At this pace, technology could soon bump the average global life expectancy from 72 to 86. And the maximum possible age to somewhere around 145. And yeah, that sounds impressive, but what if you wanted to live forever? That's exactly what projects like the 2045 Initiative are trying to work out. By the year 2045, they aim to create extraordinary human bodies that could, in theory, last forever. But their goal depends on something that's nearly impossible to acquire. A map of the human brain. So far, scientists have only mapped the brain of a worm. which has about 86 billion fewer neurons than our own. And that means that it could take generations, not just decades, to transfer the human psyche to a robot. But businesses like CryoRus are betting that that day will come. They offer to freeze your body after you die for a cold $36,000. Or for half the price, just your head. Sounds fine. The idea is that one day in the future, your brain might be thawed and transferred into an avatar where you'll live forever. And should that day come, only one question will remain. Do you really want to?
What do you guys think? It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. Okay. But it's not. Look up 2045 initiative. First, you're going to see that it's a conspiracy theory, but then you find their actual webpage. Okay. And it says, respected experts and participants in our initiative, we would like to acquaint you with the roadmap for our technological project. All of the areas of our project are unified by the goal of building a synthetic humanoid body. Avatar A, Avatar B, Avatar C, and Avatar D will work together to create. And it says the one who controls, who is the operator of the avatar, biological brain or artificial personality, the object, what is controlled, which is a robot, a copy of a human being, a system ensuring brain vitality or synthetic carrier of a personality. The means of control, how control works, which is a neuron interface, brain interface, life support system, or synthetic personality software interface computer. It says in February of 2011, a number of Russian researchers announced plans to create an artificial human body controlled by a neuro interface by 2045. That's 20 years from now. The first step toward achieving human immortality is to create a neurally controlled avatar, a humanoid robot with human-like skeleton and a set of artificial muscles and sensors. This is real. It is happening. You may ask the question, why? Why do these people not want to die? Well, one, they know that they will be punished. They will be judged. There is truly a God. And the greatest thing Satan ever did was convince the world that he was not real. They think they can avoid their judgment. Two, they don't want to give up what they've gained here. These are the quote unquote elite. I know many of you hate that word, but that is what they call themselves. And for people who are new to my channel, by the way, my name is Samantha. I am the owner operator of a 2-acre farmstead in Southeast Louisiana and the publisher of a brand new book, Growing Under a Poison Sky. Folks, listen, it's a twofold plan. They have to decrease population and they must live forever to enjoy the fruits of the earth, because there is plenty for everyone, but not enough for the ones who are always hungry. The technology they are using is what I call fallen angel technology. These angels, being cast down from heaven, know that humans were originally created to be immortal and spend eternity with God. But we sinned. And the wages of sin are what, friends and family of the internet? Death. Nobody gets away from it. I don't care how much they think that they are transferring their conscious, their soul eventually will stand before God. So if you'd like to support our channel, please look in the top of comments. Let's get busy. 5 unbelievable ways longevity pioneers are trying to live forever. Let's just call them the immortals. Right? Until recently, the idea that human beings could achieve immortality was science fiction. That was before tech billionaires got involved. With some of Silicon Valley's sharpest minds and largest wallets now joining the quest for eternal life, could it only be a matter of time before this is actually optional? In Radio 4's gripping podcast, The Immortals, Alex Kravitsky investigates the strange and shocking lengths longevity pioneers will go to in their attempt to beat death. Some immortality advocates view aging as a disease for which we have a moral responsibility to find a cure. Others believe everlasting life will ultimately come from humans uploading themselves to computers so can live forever in digital form. Life expectancy has already doubled over the past 100 years, so billions now being invested in longevity research. There's every reason to believe greater gains are possible. Here are 5 things anti-aging pioneers have done so far in their efforts to beat death. Stitching old and young mice together. Yes, this one is gruesome. So the convoys, it's a husband and wife, wanted to understand the role blood plays in how tissues age. So to see what would happen to an old mouse when it received young blood, they stitched pairs of mice together. As that tissue heals and blood vessels reform, now you have blood slowly trickling from one animal to the other. The results were compelling. The old mice became stronger and mentally sharper, and markers of age were reversed. Although the sample size was small, the convoy's findings were notable enough to be published in the peer-reviewed journals Science and Nature in 2005, and they have now influenced the longevity community ever since. Friends and family of the internet, a peer-reviewed journal is impressive. What do I mean? Well, right now there is like 10 different studies on the C vaccine that have finally made it through peer-reviewed journals to prove that what was given to us was not the same medication that was tested in clinical trials. There was a bait and switch that happened, and to get through peer review, you've got people of equal or greater educational backgrounds reviewing your work, and they rip it to shreds. They want to complain about the size of your study. It's a lot of information, so that's good. But a lot of us understand that movies like Monsters Inc. were showing you that they were using children to rejuvenate. We already know this. They keep telling us that this is conspiracy. If you are new to my channel, please understand 2 years ago, I knew none of this. Right? I didn't know any of it. And then I went to Maui. And now it's like I can't unsee it. All these children lost in this country. Pizzagate, we know what they're doing, right? They need the young. They're like vampires. This is true vampiric behavior. I believe that myths have a majority of truth to them. There have always been vampires and people who were basically, quote unquote, immortal amongst us. This is how they do it. Getting injected with young blood plasma, inspired by the convoys and the research that followed, tech entrepreneur Brian Johnson has tried something pretty shocking, being injected with the young person's blood plasma. To make sure he was getting plasma from a healthy donor, Brian asked his own son. I never imagined that my little baby would grow up and I'd be doing this procedure with him. Brian donated plasma to his dad too. So the son to the father and the father to the grandfather. Three generations are sharing blood products. It's not only the Johnsons who've tried this vampiric therapy. In 2016, a company called Ambrosia Plasma launched a clinical trial to find out whether young blood plasma really could reverse aging. Each patient received a single dose of plasma, and we measured about 100 biomarkers before and 1 month after treatment. Media hype followed, and the treatment briefly grabbed the attention of some of the biggest tech billionaires. Even though they claim to have achieved striking results, the trial's findings were never published. I wonder why. Do you know some of the greatest inventions were bought up by the US government? that they allowed the patent to be done, then they grabbed the patent, they bought the patent, and they made it top secret. There's a reason this stuff was never published to you and I. They don't want to share it. You are a useless eater. What do you do all day? You work, you grind, right? And somebody's always taking from you. What you think's best for your community doesn't even play into their plans. They don't care. Once you understand that, once you really understand that the only person that's ever truly cared for you was Jesus Christ, it does help you understand what these people are doing. So it says it was never published. Then in 2019, ambrosia plasma shut down after U.S. Food and Drug Administration warned that such treatments have no proven clinical benefits. They shut them down. I did the video for you the other day. Who controls the EPA and the FDA? Right? Testing anti-aging drugs on dogs. This infuriated me. Biotechnology startup founder Celine, or however you say her last name, is determined to find a drug that can treat aging. And because she can't treat it on humans, because that would take, 20 or 30 years to get her information, she used dogs. She found an ingenious hack. Her company plans to test longevity drugs on canine subjects. She says dogs develop the same age-related diseases we do at approximately the same time in their lifespan. But because they don't live as long, she believes she can have results from her drug within 6 to 12 months. The other clever bit, until now, U.S. regulators have never approved trials on a drug for aging. It's just not been seen as something that can be treated. Celine tells Alex that if her plan gets the go-ahead, it will show that anti-aging medicine is a legitimate field. It's horrible. Poor dogs, man. Y'all saw what the Biden administration was doing to beagles. It's absolutely. And these people, look, you lost the high ground when you got behind abortion was okay. You lost the high ground on everything else, liberals. And I know that I just cannot imagine a God-fearing conservative would ever torture animals like this. I just can't. Because no, folks, tell me what you think in comments. No, life is too precious to us, even animal life, to do something like that. Creating a longevity state. All right, so this cryptocurrency superstar, he's Russian, wants to see if he can radically extend life for everyone. In March 2023, he said it's called a pop-up city. A lot of people reported on this. What did the news say? Conspiracy theory, but it was real, right? It was 200 of the brightest minds for 2 months to tackle one problem, aging. He wanted a space where people could work on these longevity treatments in a very structured way. Merging humans with machines. We're back with Brian Johnson, same guy sharing his plasma and blood with his dad and his son. He no longer injects blood plasma. Instead, he follows a strict lifestyle protocol that's constantly refined by a computer algorithm based on his latest health data. Incredibly, at 45, Brian claims his biomarkers are now similar to those of a 17-year-old. What Brian's doing is leaning on technology to support his goals. But transhumanists have an even more extreme agenda. And here is where demons and fallen angels are involved, friends and family of the internet. Please hear me now. Man is marked a time to live. Ecclesiastes tells us this. There's a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest, time to build and a time to tear down. Man is marked an amount of years to live your life. The problem with so many of these people is the mistakes that they've made terrify them. But they're so egotistical. They're so narcissist. They're so self-centered and self-serving that they cannot even allow themselves a second to think that they may be judged by someone for their decisions, because these are the type of people who put children inside of bunkers and test on them and create things. I told y'all, I really feel like autism was created for a purpose. So transhumanists have an even more extreme agenda, merging entirely with machines. That's the idea that we can and should expand our human capabilities by merging with machines. It covers everything from biohackers inserting microchips under the skin to tech startups working on replicating the human brain. And some devotees believe it is the key to cheating death. There is no cheating death because it is the wages you pay for your sin. And we are all going to be given a bill one day. Every one of us. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. That's all I can say, you know. But transhumanism is a mockery of the creation that God created. It's a mockery. And here's a bit on the Immortals, right? They titled this Dracula. Technology reporter and psychologist Alex Krakowski explores the frontiers of the extreme longevity pioneers. They're made up of money in Silicon Valley, and with their technology solutions, PayPal, Facebook, cryptocurrencies, they've ushered in the world that we live in today with all of its intended consequences, with all of its unintended consequences. So in 2013, he sold his company to PayPal for $400 million and now spends his time and $2 million annually on the search for eternal life. I can tell you that right now, and it's free. I can give you the answer to that question right now. It's free. You ask Jesus into your heart. You ask him to forgive you for your sins. You fall on your face. You repent. You tell God that you are just man and that you don't want to spend eternity in hell. And then you will get eternal life. Here's the World Economic Forum's fourth industrial revolution. This is what they say. And that's what we're in. So what you guys have to understand is that every revolution has gotten faster. Time is speeding up, both in the physical sense of time, but also in man's ability to move to the next step. It took from from the death of Jesus since like the 1800s to get to the first industrial revolution. Then it only took like 100 years to get to the second industrial revolution. Then it was like 60 years of being in the third industrial revolution. And now we flipped into the fourth. You see it speeding up. It says here that the fourth industrial revolution represents a fundamental change in the way we live, work, and relate to one another. It's a new chapter in human development enabled by extraordinary technology advances commensurate with those of the first, second, and third industrial revolutions. The advances are merging the physical, digital, and biological worlds in a way that creates both huge promise and potential peril. The speed, breadth, and depth of this revolution is forcing us to rethink how countries develop, how organizations create value, and even what it means to be human. Read their words. They're not lying to you. They're not lying to you. They're recreating. Don't believe me? Let's let Carl Schwab say it himself.
The fourth industrial revolution, it's a fusion of the physical, the digital, and the biological world. It's changing not only what we are doing, it's changing who we are.
It's really the revolution. It's changing who we are, it's changing what we are. I hate his voice.
The notion of digital technology pervasively impacting every walk of life in every vertical industry on all parts of the globe.
Whether it's information technology and the acceleration we see in artificial intelligence, a lot is happening.
Society and how we're going to live is being defined right now.
The speed is mind-boggling. What I'm particularly concerned about is how little the world is prepared.
Harnessing this revolution.
What I am particularly worried about is how little the world is prepared. Yeah, Carl. There's almost 8 billion people on this planet right now, and we've got about 800 million people starving to death right now. I'm just saying, like, almost the entirety of the continent of Africa is starving to death. And no, friends and family of the internet, Gazans are not starving to death. That is just internet rumor. That is truly a conspiracy theory. But there are really entire countries starving to death. And this man is talking about, I mean, they're spending money on putting human brains into computers right now. They have put, China has, I've done videos on this, brain organoids, which are basically human brains grown outside of a human body from aborted fetal cells. So, woohoo, you guys that love abortion, way to go, giving Klaus Schwab all the DNA that he needs. I was thinking about this last night, friends and family of the internet. If you have been cloned, you would not know it. I'm just saying, think about this. We live in a world with 8 billion people. It's a huge planet. I know. Most people have traveled very little, and you have really no concept of how much open land where nobody lives and nothing happens. Like most of you have just never just driven for hours through a place that there's nothing there. They've already kind of done a great job in the third industrial revolution, grouping us all together in cities or around the peripheral edges of cities, and then leaving large swaths of land completely undeveloped and unused, which gives you the perception that everything is overcrowded and there's too many people and not enough resources. That's all intentional. That's all like mind control. It's a fantastic concept. See, I raise worms for a living and in a form of sustainable agriculture. So I make my own, vermicompost, worm castings, worm poop. That's what I use to nutrients for my plants. If I take a handful of worms out of the large bin and put them in a smaller bin, set it with their feed and their bedding, they will eat all that, use all that. But it comes to a point where they stop breeding because in their perception, yes, worms do have perceptions, there is not enough resources for all of them. So the eggs won't hatch and the worms won't breed. As soon as I dump that back into the huge bin, of the size of a table for 4 people to sit down and eat supper, they get crazy, but they get right back to breeding. That is what's happening with humans. They usher everybody together, and people just assume there's not enough for everyone. So they start making the decision, well, I'm not really sure I want to have kids. The earth is overpopulated. There's not enough water. There's not going to be enough food. Shame on you. You should do exactly what God told you to, repopulate.
Solution requires the involvement of all stakeholders, from public and private sectors to academia and civil society. The World Economic Forum Centre for the Fourth Industrial Revolution Network ensures that the development and application of emerging technologies benefits both people and the planet. It is a network of centres for scalable impact, with locations in the United States, Japan, India and China, bringing together stakeholders to identify the impacts of these technologies, co-design innovative governance protocols and policy frameworks, and pilot them with partners around the world.
If we are not innovative, if we're not creative enough, it will be very difficult to survive in this century.
Humans and machines are assisting each other, augmenting each other with skills.
Humanity itself will be changed with this superintelligence, and we are at the doorstep of that era.
The technologies available today will impact and change healthcare forever.
52% of the encounters with our primary care physicians were handled virtually. Just a massive change.
The network will work closely to share research, analysis and learning, and help design new technologies in ways that respect societal values.
It's where innovation is happening about how we guide this revolution.
But they don't respect Christians. They don't respect the ones of us who feel like it's my body, my choice on what you put in it. They don't respect the fact that we don't want our children to be transgender, which is all part of the transhumanism movement. It's a fluidity. They want that fluidity so that this demonic possession can flow, right?
Solve the many the social issues through the digital technologies.
My hope is that we have a robust discussion for how this can truly help our world solve some of the hard-pressed challenges that we have today.
Together.
So odd to me, because, you know, did you guys know that right now Chicago does not own their public parking spots? They sold it to a private partnership with some UAE investors for like $1 billion during, I think it was Bill Clinton's presidency, or maybe it was the beginning of Barack Obama's. It's like 2008, Chicago sold all their public parking spots and several of their parking, like towers and stuff. Anyway, structures. Because of that, if they want to be innovative and get rid of some of the public parking spots along the streets to widen the street or make more pedestrian walkways or bike lanes or even public transit, they have to pay these investors like hundreds of $1,000s per parking spot because now they're losing that revenue. And that's going to continue to 2075. You heard me. Look it up. I'm being dead serious. So you've got the World Economic Forum wanting to come in and change all these cities and make 15-minute cities, but you've got it's not possible with the way things are, is what I'm trying to say. There are not just constitutions, state and federal, that they have to, especially with America, they have to navigate, but there are agreements on parking spaces and toll booths for the roads in America. And you've got foreign adversaries involved in that. You've got private and public partnerships and investment firms involved in all of that. So the only way for this fourth industrial revolution to really happen is for something like a World War III to happen, or the one world government takes control and just nixes all previous agreements and all freedoms of all citizens in all countries at one time. Let that sink in.
We can shape a future that truly benefits and empowers people.
The world has changed. We can never, ever go back to yesterday.
We can. God's proven that. But let me show you why they really want to live forever. Listen to what this young woman says.
And that is why, if there is one thing that modern man is nowadays incredibly afraid of, it's death. So protecting public health, of course, sounds like an amazing, noble goal. And it is therefore an incredibly effective tool in gaining control over millions of citizens. But what if the elites offer us something more than just protection from death with their vaccine passports? Well, what if they can promise us not just protection of death from death, but the eradication of death itself? Well, that's where transhumanism comes in. Transhumanism promotes the view that the human species should take control over its own evolution through technology. Technologies such as brain implants, genetic engineering, and nanotechnology, eventually allowing for us humans to become immortal in the cloud, but not that cloud. Promising us paradise on Earth, the most rich and powerful people on the planet are currently working on tools that will alter human nature forever. I know that all of you know Elon Musk, and I know that you all know him from Tesla, right? The self-driving cars. But have you ever heard of the concept or of the name Neuralink? I see some people are nodding, but I see loads of people who don't. Well, let me tell you, Neuralink is one of Elon Musk's other projects, and it's a chip that can be implanted into the brain, convert your brain activity, so mind you, those are your thoughts, into a digital form and have them seriously uploaded to that cloud. And of course, also Elon Musk sells this Neuralink as something that could be beneficial to public health, stating that the chip could address brain or spinal injuries and make up for whatever lost capacity someone might have. So next time, and I know some of you like him because of the base things he says on Twitter, please think about that too. And not just Neuralink. What about human ectogenesis, or growing a baby outside of the woman's womb? Well, that's already on the way. Chinese scientists reportedly already have created an artificial womb for fetuses to safely grow in what they call a robotic nanny. Not a mother, a nanny. And we all know already that soon women will be sold this new fantastic advancement by saying, well, you won't have to suffer through those debilitating 9 months of back pain and swollen feet, and you won't have to take a break from your career anymore. This is all part of the so-called fourth industrial revolution, which entails the blurring of boundaries between the physical, digital, and biological world. And that revolution is very much taking place as we speak.
Remember when I read, and all of this will be in the description of video, go double check everything I'm telling you. Don't come underneath my video and say, well, this isn't, until you check it. Right? Because I'm very good at research and I know what I'm looking at. Remember when I showed you and read for you the article from World Economic Forum, they said the same thing. It is the mixing of technological, environmental, biological, mechanical. That is the fourth industrial revolution. It is the transhuman evolution. The Bible tells us there is nothing new under the sun. So at some point in history, this has been tried. And then you see a long bit of history. At least that's what they tell us. Like, I don't believe that there was a dark period in history, you know, where people just forgot everything and went back to using, you know, barely understanding what a will and fire was. I think that information has just been taken out from all of us knowing it. There's no fingerprint of it, because anybody that finds something that is removed from you and hidden again, and you know, they can do that. They control what you know. And how many times have you guys heard me say, you do not know what you do not know until you know it? So when I said earlier, because I never actually finished that thought, if you were being cloned, you would not know it. There are billions of people on this earth. How many times have you had biopsies, pap smears, blood samples? What happened to all the placentas you delivered with your babies and the afterbirth? Where's that? Because that is all their stem cells and all of your DNA. There could easily, out of the 8 billion people on this planet, actually organically only be 2 billion people. And every one of us has been cloned hundreds of times and just put in different areas in different countries. So there's, you know, me, Samantha here, but there could also be a me, Samantha, not by Samantha, you know, in every country in South America, in Canada, in Alaska, in Russia, in the Ukraine, in Yugoslavia, in Sweden, in Denmark. Do you see what I'm saying? There could be me's everywhere. And I would never know. And most of you wouldn't either. I mean, where do you think they get the concept of doppelgangers? I saw your doppelganger. I've had so many people tell me that, especially now that my face is more out and people from around the world can see me. I've had hundreds of people tell me, Samantha, I'm telling you it was your twin. I am telling you. And because I am my unique self, I may not look, I mean, I would physically look identical, But because of the way I walk from injuries that I've gotten, or the way that I hold my head would be different, it would be hard for me to notice that in a world of 8 billion people. Just let that thought sit in your head all day.
In fact, most of the response to the pandemic has relied on fourth industrial revolution technologies, such as genetic sequencing, vaccine biotechnology, and contact tracing, aka mass surveillance software. And if you still believe that all of this is for the greater good and it won't be used against us, then I have to say I'm sorry, but you're being dangerously naive. Transhumanism will be presented to us as the Holy Grail, but in fact, it's the poisoned chalice. I can imagine that some of you still might be thinking that I'm exaggerating this, but well, the reality is that I'm not the one saying it, they are. All we have to do is listen. For example, some years ago at the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum, Yuval Noah Harari said, and I quote, "Soon corporations and governments will be able to hack all people. This will be the greatest revolution in biology since the very beginning of life. Science is replacing evolution with intelligent design, not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds, but our intelligent design." End of quote. Bottom line is, ladies and gentlemen, we don't take our enemies seriously enough. We can't seem to imagine that there are people on this earth who want to create a new human, a new world that is evil. As Baudelaire once said, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. And he was right. Because how do we expect to win a war against enemies that we don't even see for what they are? Well, if we don't see it, we won't win that war. But yet there is solace and there is hope. Because what happens when humans try to change their nature? All you have to do is think about the story of Icarus. He thought he could change his human nature and fly to the sun. And what happened to him? He came crashing down. So in the end, especially us Christians who believe in God, we know that playing God never has worked and it never will work. Evil will perish in the end. But that's no reason to sit back right now, because the evil that we're facing has the potential to take control over millions of people on an unprecedented scale for a very long period of time. So standing by isn't an option. So what should we do? Well, the older I get, the less I believe that this is a matter of left and right. We don't need something smaller. No, we need something much greater than globalism, something much greater than transhumanism. We need the greatest. We need God. Religion will be the only... Religion will be the only antidote to the evils of transhumanism and globalism. And sadly, I really don't believe that anything else will cut it.
Touche, young lady. Oh, God bless her and multiply her and keep her safe. Folks, if you want to get into this battle with us, people who donate to my channel get a monthly newsletter. You also Zoom with me at least once a month, just depends. This month, we're waiting to see what my husband's surgery is going to look like, his surgery schedule. But donate whatever you can. Make sure you put your email in the donation so I can reach out to you. Unvaccinated blood is now in very high demand. Story at a glance. A growing number of people in need of blood transfusions are requesting blood that comes from people who have not received the C vaccine shots. Pathologist Dr. Ryan Cole compared the current unknowns regarding vaccinated blood with HIV-tainted blood that was used for transfusions in the 1980s. Directed donations and autologous donations or self-donation are options for receiving blood from mRNA, but in both cases, you'll need your doctor to submit a Red Cross Special Collections order form. A safe blood donation campaign has also been formed to match blood donors and recipients who were not vaccinated. It's unknown whether blood donated by these people who received the mRNA poses a risk to those who receive it. A growing number of people aren't willing to take the chance. One high-profile case includes a 4-month-old baby, Will Savage Reeves, in New Zealand, who needs surgery for a heart valve disorder. His parents, Samantha and Cole, gotta love that name, requested the infant receive blood only from donors who did not have the mRNA shot. While unvaccinated blood is available, the doctors and hospital refused to grant the request. The case was heard before a New Zealand court, which sided with the doctors and took guardianship of the child to proceed with the surgery using mRNA vaccinated blood. The outcome of baby Will's case may serve as a harbinger of things to come. The hospital argued that the surgery should proceed using vaccinated blood because of the importance of finding a quality match. A large pool of donor blood raises the possibility of finding the highest quality match. In addition, the executive director of the Vaccine Safety Research Foundation says if there was a safety signal from being vaccinated, from using vaccinated blood for transfusions, it would have surfaced by now. It also says they want to keep up appearances, and allowing one patient to use unvaccinated blood may open the floodgates to others requesting the same. If they agree to use unvaccinated blood, it could be interpreted as an admission that vaccinated blood is not safe and could lead everyone to requesting unvaccinated blood, which would then create a severe blood shortage. The media, meanwhile, are painting the reasonable request to honor the precautionary principle as a conspiracy theory and disinformation dreamed up by fringe anti-vaxxers. The case and the family's flawed scientific arguments highlighted the continuing dangers of online misinformation and conspiracist narratives. The dispute has become a cause in the most toxic way, promoting a spike in hate speech on fringe platforms where conspiracy theories run rife. The researcher at the Disinformation Project of New Zealand Monitoring Group. Wow. In a similar case in Italy, a judge also ruled against parents who requested blood transfusions only from unvaccinated donors be used during their 2-year-old son's heart surgery. It says Richard Hirschman, a board-certified embalmer and funeral director with more than 20 years of experience, has come forward stating that in the time period since the outbreak and those mRNAs were rolled out, starting in the middle of 2021, he has been finding strange clots in the bodies of the deceased. That's all I'm going to say, or I will lose my channel. I've already lost my funding. So if you enjoy this type of comment and you really want to talk about it, you can come see me on a private Zoom with everybody else where we can talk about these things. Please consider rowing in our boat. Look at the top of comments, add your email. We'll throw you in the boat with us, folks. Guys, listen. I just saw another article, right? 4 days ago, another person woke up in the middle of having their organs removed during an organ transfusion surgery, where they had to keep you alive to take out your organs, right? You were just being used as body parts, friend and family. You're just a guinea pig for these people. Getting rid of as many of us as possible is their goal. And like I said, what if there are 300 of me around? They get rid of the troublemakers and keep the other ones for body parts, right? I'm laughing. But if you can think it, they can do it. Have a blessed, amazing day.